Hi there, something a bit different this week. I'm going to do some track reviews for. My goodness, people sent tracks in to be reviewed. It's brilliant. So I've really been looking forward to doing this. I've got four to review today. I'm going to try and do them anonymously because I think it's probably the best thing to do. Um, yeah, so let's get straight on with this one. I got a lovely email from the person who sent this to me, and they are looking after a bit of a break to maybe get their work back into music libraries. Let's have a bit of a listen. I've had a quick listen already, but let's go from the beginning. Okay, lovely. Really liking the improvised sort of feel of that, and I think you said in your email this has been interviewed. Let's assume this is going to a music library, and even without listening to it, there's a few things that we can improve on in that. The first thing is that if it's going to a library, then 3 minutes 46 is probably too long. Two and a half, 3 minutes max. Really, you can go to 3 minutes 46, but you have to have a really good reason for doing so. And my sense with this is that it is very improvisatory, and it might just be a bit too long. It might just need to be structured a bit better. And talking about structure, you've got to think about how this would be chosen to be put in a TV show. So essentially, what's going to happen is that the music editor or a film editor is going to be looking through a huge number of waveforms, and the only thing they've got to go on and what your piece of music sounds like is the title, Moonfleet, which is lovely. It really fits with what I'm hearing here, I think, and also the waveform. And the waveform here tells me very quickly that this sounds pretty much the same all the way through. Apart from this area here, I can see it's building a bit to the end. So probably got a louder bit here, quite a lot of middle here, and this beginning bit here. The only point that I can see instantly that I can edit though is here. And if this was going to be a production music track, you would want more than one clear edit point in it. Now, I might be wrong, and there might be an edit point there, and there might be an edit point there, but I don't think I'm seeing that particularly clearly. Let's just have a listen to them. Okay, so that's really clearly an edit point. That's really straightforward. You could cut and start there. Can you do the same here? Okay, I was right. Well, wrong. I don't know, but there is an edit point there, so we do have two edit points. That's great. Is the one here? Not so much there. So, yeah, you've got two edit points actually, haven't you? I would probably go for maybe more if you can. I would probably be looking for something that starts a bit smaller, has a middle, and a bit louder towards the end. But actually those edit points could just be maybe a little bit clearer, and I would reduce the amount of time. I would be cutting it down so that it's structurally a lot tighter. Let's go back to the actual sound of this. To my ears, I love the feeling of this. It's lovely. Great job on the atmosphere, on the whole sort of improvisatory, moonlighty sort of feel. I love it. To my ears, there's a number of notes that are sticking out. There was one there on the piano. That, and in the intro that we listened to, there's a few more as well. I think this is possibly live. I don't know whether it's done via MIDI or whether you've got just an audio file. If it's via MIDI, then you need to take your velocity down a little bit on those. If it's an audio file, two ways of doing it. You can literally just get that little bit of audio and squish it down, just separate it to squish it down. You can do that at Cubase. I don't know whether you can in other DAWs, or you could put a little bit of compression on that just to stop those notes pinging out of the texture. Let's go on. Don't want that. Okay, let's think about the string writing, because the piano, I can hear that there's different things happening. You've gone up into a higher octave there to provide a little bit of variety. The strings, as far as I can tell, it's just long sustained chords. And you said in your email that you'd done the piano improvisation and then you'd added the strings underneath. And I think it sounds a little bit like that. The strings sound very, very synth heavy. They sound very synthesized and unnatural. Let's just have a listen, because I think because it's sort of block chords. My suspicion is that you have played sort of piano. You're clearly a really accomplished pianist. You possibly played piano chords for strings, but strings don't really work like that often, and you end up with a sort of very sort of blocky sort of string sound. I did a video a couple of months ago about string writing. I was going to do a part 2. I will do at some point, but so that I'll try and link that down below if I remember. But rather than having blocks of sound, you need to think in terms of lines. So the string sound in this is very sort of vertical. I can hear vertical blocks, and we need to be thinking in terms of lines that fit together to make those vertical blocks. We haven't got that. I don't think we're hearing individual lines here, which makes it sound a bit mechanical. It makes it really, really clear that it's sample based, which I'm assuming that it is. It doesn't sound like there's a huge amount of using your velocity controller to sort of tail off the ends of phrases in the strings and to make the string parts breathe. It just sounds a little bit blocky, I think, and also quite samey all the way through. I don't know why that keeps coming up. Go away. So that's nice, that high string sound there. Lovely. I do like this. Yeah, and that high string there, it sounds very synthy. It sounds like it's been played on a keyboard, which I think it has. That you need to be phrasing off a little bit. Maybe does it need a bit more, just a little bit more reverb, just to tie the notes together somehow. Strings very rare. Strings don't stay on one sound. I'm hearing there, da. It just sort of goes on. A string player doesn't do that. It's impossible to play really a note on a string instrument that is absolutely square and level all the time, because of course you're bowing, so it will have a sort of rise and fall even within the individual notes. So if you can avoid that blockiness, that will make a massive difference. But as I say, I think my guess is you played it in chords. If you could play individual lines with a velocity controller, that would make a big difference. Too many around, I know. lovely harmony. It's beautiful. It's just that stringy sound for me, and it actually, as a piece of music, it works really, really well. I have a problem with the bit sticking out, as I said. I think, to sum up, really, I'll play to the end, but to sum up, because it's on my mind, I think the strings need sorting out. I think it needs a bit more variety in the string writing, and it just needs a bit more variety generally. If you're going for it to being a production track, it needs to be shorter, you need to have clearer edit points, and it needs to have a bit more of a sense of development, I think. And of course you hear sort of ambient-y type production music tracks like this, but I think generally speaking, to get something in a library, get it placed, having something with a bit more structure, a bit more development, it building and having a bit more of an overall arching shape than this maybe does would probably help. Oh, okay, so we're not ending on the tonic. Yeah, lovely. Beautiful piece, very emotional, and I think with some real sort of more live string sounding in that, it could have a real sort of more organic and more natural sort of sound to it. The other option is that you have actually, yeah, I guess you are actually going for a synth sound. If you want it to sound like piano and synth, then I think it needs to be more synth sounding. At the moment, to my ear at least, and I could well be wrong, it sounds a bit like you're trying to emulate strings and it's coming out like a synth, and you either need to go the string direction or you need to go more in the synth direction as well, I think, with the accompaniment, and that would improve that. But great job. That is a lovely piece, beautifully titled. Fabulous piano playing, lovely emotional feel to it. Thank you so much for sending in. I really enjoyed that. It's really, really lovely. Okay, and on to the second one. I've just listened to it a little bit at the beginning of this. It's so good.
I see you.
It's just how you just pick up the live voice, the live vocal is beautiful. I think this is the person that wrote it, and there's a bit of live string in there. I'm not sure. It does sound really, really convincing, if not.
Закрыта моя душа, мое сердце, мое сердце отпусти. Отче наш, сущий на небесах, да святится имя Твое, да придет царствие Твое, да будет воля Твоя и на земле, как на небе. Хлеб наш насущный дай нам на сей день, и прости нам долги наши, ибо Твое есть царство и сила и
That is beautiful. I've got tingles down the back of my neck at the end when the bell comes in. I'm actually feeling a bit teary. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. My God, the lyrics, the vocal, I think beautifully done. Just about the right amount of reverb, maybe a little bit too much, and it just gets a little bit lost in places, particularly when you've got two voices going, but just the feeling of it, the emotion of it, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I think production-wise, it's really, really great. I think the mix is really, really great. As I say, maybe the vocals are a tad too wet in places. The string writing, as far, I don't know what it is exactly. There's definitely some strings down there that sound pretty realistic. It's pretty convincing. The guitar sounds pretty convincing as it being a live performance. It may well be. It has a little lovely ebb and flow to it. Just the overall sound and the mix and the emotion of it is just beautiful. I'm so emotional. Is it a piece of production music though? So I think what you've got to do, you've always got to think if you're writing for a production music library, what would you see this been set against picture-wise? And there's got to be a call, considering the political situation at the moment, for this sort of flavour of music. If the only thing I would say that probably needs change, I don't know whether I'd even change it. It's just very niche, isn't it? I think you really, you could write an album of this type of sound, but that would be enough. It's not the sort of thing that you'd write 10 albums of. It's not like, so the main things that production music, the sort of staples are supposed to be tension music, piano music, and there's another one which I can't remember because I probably don't do it. Is it comedy? Probably, isn't it? Like sort of dramedy, sort of plucky strings, comic sort of stuff. This well doesn't fit into any of those categories, and that's really, really good. The production on it is so good, though. I think I can see that being signed by a library now. I think probably, as I said before in the other one of the two or three other track reviews, the only thing I would probably say is that there aren't any edit points in that. It does develop, doesn't it? Maybe does it need to develop? Maybe so you've got a more clear development. I know there's sort of two verses at the beginning until almost halfway through, and then it changes sort of here. And I was wondering at the beginning whether it was too samey, and maybe that second verse needs something more obviously different. It changes sort of in the middle here, and then you've got the two voices, and I think it's got enough development as it goes on, but maybe you do need to introduce some other sound. You get the bell at the end a bit more. Maybe there just needs to be a little bit more development. Maybe there should be a couple of edit points in that to make it a bit more usable for an editor. But oh my God, that is so lovely. I think it's signable now. I would send it as a demo to libraries now. I think the live vocal, your vocal is just something else, and it sells it. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Okay, here we go then. The quiet after the storm, and the composer of this is looking to submit this to a library, wondering, and I think he said this is one of pretty much an album of tracks. Straight away, I'm seeing a nice intro. I'm seeing edit points here. So if I'm an editor looking for music, this is looking good. I can see already where I might edit it and fit it into my production if need be. It's 2.5 minutes. It's not going to go on too long. That's a great length. And in the quiet after the storm, really, it gives me a pretty good indication of what it's likely to sound like. Okay, here we go. Oh, go away. Right. oboe is a brave choice. Is that a live oboe? I don't know at this stage. Anything that I do with sampled oboe in it, and I've maybe done it 3 or 4 times, I get returned with a note saying on it, "Love the music, but the oboe sounds fake." It's a really difficult one to mix, I think, even if it's live. Let's go on, let's have a listen to it. Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. My ear's just picking up on that. Just, there's the strings or whatever it is, or the synth changes notes there. Is that supposed to be a string patch? It, there. It sounds really, really synthy. It probably is. Well, it is. It's going to be sample strings, isn't it? But I would taper, and just that join, you need to be using your velocity just to get the taper and the join of that a little bit better. I think it sounds very blocky, as I've said, as if you're playing on a keyboard rather than a bowed instrument. Yeah, the woodwind's pretty convincing. I don't know whether it's live or not. I'm not great enough at woodwind. I just always think woodwind is a really brave choice because it's the hardest thing to sample realistically, hardest thing to sound realistic. I think this does sound pretty convincing. I wasn't sure about the clarinet at the very opening, but it's sounding pretty convincing. I like the edit points here. Let's just go on. It's just a very harsh, stringy, synthy sound up there. It seems really, really high in the mix to me compared with the oboe. Okay, immediate thought at that point. Now, this again might be wrong because I'm not quite sure where we're going. Production music, generally you're going for one mood. And to me, there seems to be a bit of a shift, too much of a shift. We seem to have gone to a slightly different place, and it needs to be a development of that first place, probably a little bit. Again, it's subjective, and I might be wrong on that, but let's go on and see. So, got that really lovely sort of taper off of it being soft, and then we might just be too loud. I don't know. This is a lovely piece. I really like it. It's a great job. It sounds absolutely fantastic. It's really, really nice. Actually, I'm not sure. This is the sort of thing I've been pulled upon for years in my early years as a production music composer. Just that pitsy spiccato string sound. Does it not sound like it's just chords that you've just played on the keyboard like that? Are they two together? Is there too much reverb on it? Are they not tight enough? I don't know. They're just a bit bright. They don't quite sound. They sound like they've been played on a keyboard, and I hope I'm right and they're not live. That'd be embarrassing. But it just sounds a bit too chuggy. Are they all? Maybe they're all too much the same because it's the same sample over and over again. It needs a bit of a change of velocity or something. I don't know why that keeps coming up. I don't use SoundCloud very often. It's annoying me. I'm not going to press clear because that might get rid of everything. Okay. You know what? In a way, this is almost too good because it's very filmic. It's not it's not in its development production music-y. The production, I think, is great. I think the musical ideas are great. I really, really like it. Don't get me wrong. As a piece of music, it's absolutely fabulous. I think you're doing a great job. But what I'm hearing is sort of one idea up to here, and then I'm hearing something that's a little bit removed here, and it's quite a big development. It's a musical development. It's a thematic development, and we've just changed here to something else that's a sort of thematic development as well. It's like you're symphonically sort of developing it. And production music, really, you need to state your theme, state your stuff, maybe repeat it with a bit of variation or an extra layer or in a sort of slightly different way. Have maybe a bit of a breakdown where you've got like a bed or something or other that you could edit in and use under dialogue and so on and so forth. Then basically repeat the same thing again, but bigger and expanded more or in a slightly different way. But you're sort of repeating the same thing three times. There's no reason why you can't have a contrasting B section and stuff like this to switch it up a little bit. But basically, you're thinking about how an editor might use your music. You're highly unlikely to get it placed for any more than 30-40 seconds or so. So, you need a sort of 30 or 40 second section that's sort of a quiet version of it, could go under dialogue. A 20 or 30 second version that's sort of very similar, but if it comes back in a slightly different scene and they want to sort of hark back to it, it might just have an extra instrument on it, something. And you need a version of the same sort of thing that they might use between scenes when there's no dialogue, and something that might be totally sort of underscore, that just sort of suggests that the track that they might use if there's a lot of noise or Foley and stuff in there, and they just want to sort of underscore. This is sort of too good. Do you know what I mean? It's there's too much development. There's too much different stuff. You're almost showing how good a composer you are, because you clearly are. And I think you need to we always do, we need to get away from trying to show how clever we are at developing music and stuff, and think about, well, where could this be used? How could it be used? Where's it? What sort of picture is it like to be underneath? What sort of scene is it likely to be? You've got to think from an editor's point of view, because that's where where you're going to get your placements and where you're going to get your money, basically. Beautiful. It's absolutely lovely. I'm not a fan of the string sounds. I think string writing needs to improve. I think the woodwind is a brave choice, but I think I think you get away with it. But I think the actual mix is pretty good, sounds pretty good. The production sounds pretty good. It's not quite, in terms of its musical content, a production of music track. And I'm struggling. So you asked, well, what? It's not tension, is it? You asked in your email, is it tension? It's sort of tension. It's more sort of contemplative, isn't it? It fits in the Quiet After the Storm perfectly, but it's not classic production music tension. So I think if you're pitching an album of tracks like this to a music library, then I don't think necessarily tension is the right title or the right concept or vibe. I don't know what the other tracks sound like. Obviously, it's very orchestral. Clearly, it's very John Williams, isn't it? You look like John Williams from the side. It's it's got a lovely contemplatory. That's a good word, isn't it? Contemplatory vibe to it. It's clearly musical. It's clearly accomplished. It's just that I don't think it quite fits into the production music mould, unfortunately, and it is a bit of a mould quite yet. Having said that, if you go through production music libraries and you really dig in, you will find tracks that have all sorts of structures to them, all sorts of ways of developing them, and this sort of, do it, repeat it, drop, repeat it, bigger type scenario is not for every cue. But that doesn't mean that it's, you've got to think of it like an editor. You know, it does. I think you know, music libraries will accept stuff as a bit of a, okay, well, as a bit of a punt, we'll give it a go. You know, let's pop it in the library and see what happens. And it might be an editor will be looking for, you know, there's a scene in something they're editing that is literally quiet after the storm. They'll come across your track and it'll be absolutely perfect, and they'll play the first bit and then fade it out. But to make it more usable and more attractive to more editors, and to get it, give it a higher chance of getting more placements and getting chosen more often, then I think it needs to adhere to that sort of production music mold a little bit more. But it's great. It's great work. Absolutely brilliant. Nice pair of headphones, by the way. Okay. Okay, and here we go. Why it's Monsieur Poirot. Let's have a listen to this one. Click, click, click at the end. Okay, lovely. It certainly sums up a. I think you said in your email you didn't want it to sound like Agatha Christie. It certainly does. It has that sort of. You've really captured the sort of mystic, slightly tongue-in-cheek, Monsieur Poirot type feel with the theme here. And actually, the end is lovely, ending on the 7th chord. Really like it. We got lost in the middle a little bit, or I did. Let's have a go from the beginning again. But I think the actual theme and the mood, you've totally got it. Okay, there's a lot going on there, isn't there? So you've got your theme on, you've got piano going in there, there's flute, there's a sort of vibraphony type, glass marimba type sound, and a bass. I think you're trying to do too much. And I think the issue at the moment is you can't quite control 4 voices all at the same time. I would be tempted, for a start, maybe just to get this sounding really, really great just with piano and bass. So you've got your tune going on piano and a bit of a left-hand accompaniment with piano. And I would just probably leave the marimba-y thing and particularly the flute. It's really, really difficult with the flute. You've sort of got to weave in counter melody, and they're overlapping and they're getting a bit mixed up, and it's all sounding a bit complicated, and I can't quite, as a listener, work out what I'm supposed to be listening to. So I think simplify is the thing here. Let's just have another listen. There's a long string sound in there as well, isn't there? I mean, you could live with that maybe, but I would definitely get rid of the flute and the marimba, glass marimba type sound or vibraphone or whatever it is for the moment, just to simplify the texture a little bit. And then it has a nice sense of performance to it. It's not sort of literally click, 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 da, 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 da. You know, there's a little bit of ebb and flow in the tempo, which is lovely. What you need to make sure, though, is that all your instruments are doing the same thing. I think you've probably recorded the right hand of the piano, recorded the tune, and then you've tried to put the bass and the other bits in there, and you can't quite work out where they sort of fit, because you can't see or hear the click, which is really, really difficult, which is why I think you're getting those 4 parts in a bit of a muddle. So simplifying that will help. Having said that, I would go... I think it needs a little bit more ebb and flow. I'm hearing a bit sort of da 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 da. There's like almost a little gap in between each of the phrases. It needs a bit more flow. I would concentrate on really working at the performance of that piano melody, getting the bass and a piano accompaniment fitting absolutely perfectly with that before moving anywhere else. So you've got a real sense of the ebb and the flow and the musicality of it. Just go again. The second phrase that we've just heard there, but maybe at that point bring in the flute, just to, but not as complicated as what you've got. Just some sustained lines that just support the melody, and make sure you know your melody is here and the flute is either here or here. At the moment, I think they may be crossing a little bit and they're too close together. So you shouldn't. Well, I would say you shouldn't really have things crossing, but for the moment, try and keep them separate so they're not too close. And then it sounds like we're going to go into like a little different section here. That would have been lovely with the woodwind. Da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 do 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 do. Back to the tune. Da 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 dum, but it gets slightly lost. Love that idea. You've got a sort of pause coming on, haven't you? Which sort of fits the end of that section. This is, I guess, a work in progress. There's stuff to be done on this. But this third phrase, you just need to fit together. I would run with that little woodwind phrase that you've got and end where you did what we just heard there. So da, 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 pause. Then we get your ending. Love the seventh. I'm not convinced about the click at the end. Is that not sure whether that's deliberate or not. But the end, da, 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 the seventh at the end. Absolutely love it. Great stuff. There's work to do, but the actual overall flavour of that I think is right. And it's like a little film cue. It's like 14 seconds or something. Two phrases, a contrasting phrase that needs a little bit of work, and then this and a pause leading to a pause, and then just tying it up to the end, which you did really, really nicely. So it's that middle section, that third phrase, that you need to sort of get the overall structure of. And I would be simplifying, absolutely simplifying, and getting rid of those middle parts, or really simplifying those middle parts anyway, quite considerably. Small point, I'm not sure where the bass is. I'm deaf in my left ear, bizarrely enough, slightly anyway, mainly. I can't quite work it. It feels to me like the bass is in the left and it should be in the middle. I would need to listen to it on my big speakers. But for this sort of thing, I would probably be putting the bass in the centre. It sounds like it's over to the left-hand side, but I might be wrong about that. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, hope that was of some use. Thanks, Dave. Bye-bye.